South Korea is a great example. This was a country that was an aid recipient. Today they are an aid donor. We'd love to see that replicate the vulnerabilities of South Korea, the vulnerabilities of the majority of.
최근 미국 의회 청문회에서 해외 지원 예산을 두고 아주 격렬한 다툼이 벌어졌습니다.
Two things I wanted to say. First of all, this ICE is an abomination. And what they're doing, and the immigration policy in this country is an embarrassment. It is inhumane. But it is crazy that you want to let people in from South Africa because they can assimilate while you're throwing out hundreds of thousands of people who have already assimilated and that are important parts of our economy and family life. Secondly, I just want to end with this. I hope that this administration will have the patience in reaching a diplomatic agreement to keep Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. But a trade-off should not be giving them the ability to fund proxy terrorists. And with that, I thank you again for being here, and I yield back.
Thank you, and you did. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you again, Secretary Rubio. We appreciate that you've had an intense day up here on Capitol Hill, and that
More intense here than the Senate, I'll tell you that.
and that you've been here to share your thoughts, your philosophies, and you've been so transparent with this subcommittee, even where there are obviously some places that we don't agree. But I again, can't tell you how much I appreciate the focus of the administration abroad. With that, I've just got one question, fairly short.
미국은 전 세계에서 가장 많은 돈을 어려운 나라들을 돕는 데 쓰고 있습니다. 하지만 그 엄청난 예산이 정말 제대로 쓰이고 있는지 묻는 의원들의 추궁이 이어집니다.
U.S. Foundation for Natural Security and Counterterrorism was passed into law as the U.S. Foundation for International Conservation at the end of 2024. And as you know, this foundation was created with the understanding that mismanaged, impoverished, and protected areas across the globe can become safe havens for transnational organized crime, drug cartels, and terrorist networks, all core principles that would fit under the America First agenda. However, funds for the foundation, now under the purview of the State Department, have not been launched, and the funding is frozen. And because the foundation's 2-to-1 private-public match, there's about $600 million that could be stabilizing East Africa and the Sahel region, cracking down on illegal Chinese fishing, stopping cartel-driven deforestation in the Amazon, with protected area enforcement. Is this foundation something that you're committed to? And if so, what would need to happen for that to become activated and for the funding to be released?
Well, you may correct me if I'm wrong. I think the foundation depends on some appointments that need to happen to there's a governing structure to it that has both presidential and congressional appointments. I think those have not happened yet. And I know that's probably taken longer as a supporter than you would want it to see happen in others. We can't really activate this until it's stood up, and right now it just hasn't been, the governing structure of it is not in place for a variety of reasons. I would imagine part of it is the change in administration with so much going on. We just haven't gotten to the point where we've gotten, I don't believe we have the congressional appointments either on that. I may be wrong about that, but I don't believe so as well. So let me get back to you on where we stand on these appointments, because having that governing structure in place is what's necessary in order for it to be deployed.
돈을 쓰는 문제를 넘어 이제는 실제로 무너진 곳을 다시 세우는 데 들어가는 비용과 그 책임에 대해 구체적인 논쟁이 시작됩니다.
I can tell you I've heard a lot about it. It has strong supporters in both the House and Senate in both parties. If I'm not mistaken, I think Senator Graham was involved in this effort in the Senate along with Senator Coons, and I'm not sure who the sponsors were on this side. So we've had numerous inquiries, but we've got to get those appointments before we can activate it.
All right. Thank you. We'll follow up as well. I yield.
Thank you. Ranking Member DeLauro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, we're currently in the midst of a significant outbreak of a type of Ebola that has no authorized treatment or vaccine. The outbreak is occurring in a region of the world that really is highly insecure, and in the wake of the administration's withdrawal from the World Health Organization, the dismantling of USAID, and the State Department's restructuring of global health engagements impacting the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It is now my understanding that the State Department is now rushing millions of dollars for the response. I would have preferred for funding to be spent on preparedness and detection, just as you outlined in your global health strategy. But here we are, with a growing case counts and people dying. In 2014, in an op-ed, you wrote that it was, quote, inexcusable, end quote, that no senior official had been designated to lead the U.S. Ebola response under President Obama. And today, there is no single designated lead. And the senior National Security Council position responsible for coordinating infectious disease and biosecurity is vacant. Mr. Secretary, who is in charge of the Ebola response? And how is that?
논의는 더 깊어져서 식량이나 보건 지원이 현장에서 어떻게 작동했는지를 두고 치열한 공방이 오갑니다. 현장의 상황과 실제 지원의 괴리에 대해 의원들이 강하게 몰아붙입니다.
That different from what you called inexcusable in 2014?
Well, it's different in a couple ways. First of all, our response has actually been faster than the response in 2014, both in the ability to flow funds to our partners in the region and in standing up all kinds of facilities. Let me answer the second question first and then get back to the first. We are, at this time, it's an interagency process in which multiple agencies are involved in this response. The U.S. State Department's taking a lead in some aspects of it, but even Department of War is involved in the sense of flowing, for example, the standing up of this clinic, this observation post in Kenya that will allow us to observe exposed Americans or suspected exposures for 21 days. If they are infected, those Americans will be transported to a treatment facility somewhere in Europe or maybe stateside. If after 21 days they're not infected, they continue home. We're standing up that facility. But we flowed, I believe, well over $200 million to partners in this response. This is not a scramble. This is something that broke out in a rural area of a war-torn country and was underreported for over a month. Not because of anything other than the fact that it was in a rural area in a war-torn country that was highly unstable. On your first point about who's in charge, one of the things that's being discussed in the interagency is whether we need to stand up a specific individuals for this specific case. And that's been proposed. There are a couple people being considered. I don't want to use the term Ebola czar, but someone with the qualifications to sort of serve full-time in the coordination of the interagency. In the interim, the interagency has a daily meeting on this, and we at the State Department have a task force 24/7 on it as well.
But it would be in keeping with what you talked about in 2014, to have a single person in charge. It's always better to have a point person, I think you would agree.
Well,
that is
ultimately, you're
leading the
trying to
charge,
coordinate
working
multiple
with the agencies.
Yeah.
Because it has to be interagency, but there is one person who is coordinating them, and the information flows through. So apparently you are thinking about doing that. I think it would be sooner than later, and I would just
그 와중에 감염병 같은 급한 위기가 터졌을 때 정작 대응을 진두지휘할 책임자가 없었다는 점이 도마 위에 오릅니다. 과거의 실수를 반복하고 있다는 지적이 나옵니다.
say that I think in the wake of withdrawing from World Health and dismantling of USAID, I think it has put us in a position of really trying to play catch up in this because we should have learned from 2014. Let me just, last year you testified that, quote, no children are dying on my watch, end quote. Due to the termination of USAID, it has been estimated that the total number of additional child deaths is more than 500,000. While we'll never know the exact number of deaths, I believe that there have been additional child deaths from diarrhea, from malnutrition, from pneumonia, from malaria, and HIV. I would hope that we would really not accept the consequences of the termination of these programs, because it is unacceptable to see that kind of death and destruction, but that we will have learned that we need some of these programs and the apparatus to be in place that help us to prevent these illnesses and be able to respond rapidly so that we can be in the position of the United States of preventing death, particularly amongst the children of the world. With that, Mr. Chairman, I
Thank you,
yield
Ranking
back.
Member. And
Well, I just say this number keeps getting thrown around. I dispute that. Those numbers are nowhere near reality. That's not reality. That's not a reality that 500,000
Well, I
people,
would
that
be happy to try to document it, but
700,000
Mr. Chairman, my time has expired.
Well, what about my
Thank-
time?
Well,
Do I get time to
that's-
respond, or I just have to
I
listen?
think, I think it's fair for him for the Secretary just for a quick response.
Mr. Chairman,
더 큰 문제는 지원 사업이 갑자기 중단되면서 발생한 피해입니다. 이로 인해 숨진 아이들이 너무 많다는 충격적인 수치가 제시되며 분위기는 더욱 무거워집니다.
The question was asked, and we've been going a
fine.
little bit
And-
over.
And then if that's the case, I can go back and
No, no,
take a look
we're
at all
just-
the areas in which this is documented, what the losses are,
ranking
because I
member.
have that information.
Thank you. The Ranking Member, you can always submit that to the record if you well desire.
Well, I just want to respond to that point.
Let's
'cause
just give a
it's-
quick response, and then
Yeah,
we'll
the
move
quick
on.
response is this. No country in the world spends more money, not even close, than the United States does on humanitarian assistance. It's not even close. We spend more money, I believe, than the next 3 or 4 countries combined. So I would argue if there are such tragic cases happening, and I'm sure there are around the world, it's not because we're not spending enough money, it's because the rest of the world is not spending enough money.
Mr. Chairman, 126,000 children died from diarrhea,
If I can ask the ranking member-
155,000 from
I
malnutrition.
can ask the Ranking Member to suspend, please.
Well,
We've-
but we gave the gentleman a time
Well,
and
it was-
to
you-
challenge
If I can ask-
documented information.
But how is
If I-
diarrhea?
Wait,
solely
hold on,
the
hold on,
responsibility of
hold
the
on.
United
Order.
States?
Because the programs that deal
The
with
ranking
that
member-
have been dismantled.
We
ranking
spend more
member-
money than
I
anybody
hear
else.
you, Mr. Chairman,
Thank
and
you.
I want to be
Thank you.
responsive. I
Thank you.
yielded, I ended at my 5 minutes.
We will continue.
I ended with my 5
You got your questions. The Secretary, I think, answered it. Now we will go to Mr. Molinar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, you can add on to whatever you'd like to say further, but I also want to ask if you can, we've learned a lot over the past few years about critical minerals, about reliable supply chains. You've been doing a lot in this area with Pax Silica, Quad Critical Minerals Initials Framework. After you maybe respond, I would love to learn a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, I made my point. My point is we spend more money than anybody else on foreign aid, by far, not even close. And we're going to spend it smarter than we ever have before as well. I mean, part of these health compacts, 32 countries around the world have signed compacts with us that will allow us not just to deal with the acute cases that are occurring, but actually strengthen the health programs of these countries so that they become self-sustaining over time.
미국은 다른 나라보다 압도적으로 많은 돈을 쓰고 있다며 억울함을 호소합니다. 그러면서 장관은 해외 지원이 거둘 수 있는 가장 완벽한 결과라며 한 나라를 직접 꺼냅니다.
Some will get there in 5 years, some may take 10. But all these countries love these MOUs because we're building their domestic capabilities to address these challenges. I've always said the best foreign aid program is an aid program that ends because the country doesn't need it anymore. South Korea is a great example. This was a country that was an aid recipient. Today they are an aid donor. We'd love to see that replicated, and these countries that are signing the MOUs love it because they've gone from an era of dependency to an era of self-sustainment that we're helping and partnering with them directly with their healthcare systems. We're not just standing up NGOs that come in from abroad and go into the country and tell them this is what you need to be doing. We are empowering the national health agencies of our partner nations so they can deal with this. Now, on the issue of critical minerals, look, it's an issue of global consensus now. Forget about which country it is. It is not healthy for the global economy, and frankly, it is dangerous for national security and the security of the world to depend on any single country for 90% of anything that's critical to your industrial base, your defense base, your technology base. And so I think we hosted Pax Silica, which you mentioned, is a great conglomerate of countries that have signed and cooperating on protecting particularly the supply chains related to artificial intelligence and development in that field, as well as hopefully standards that go associated with it. In the field of critical minerals, we had a ministerial, I don't remember, but March or April this year, earlier this year, we had 36 or more countries attend the critical minerals ministerial. And every country you go into today, and at every embassy around the world, critical minerals are a key component of our diplomacy. Not just the access to the raw materials, but the ability to process those materials into a usable product that are critical. And obviously, we are doing that overlaid with a mapping of our vulnerabilities. And I don't say our vulnerabilities. These are the vulnerabilities of Japan, the vulnerabilities of South Korea, the vulnerabilities of the majority of Europe, and frankly, of the world. We simply have a high...
도움을 받던 나라가 이제는 다른 나라를 돕는 위치가 됐다는 말입니다. 하지만 이런 성공 뒤에는 전 세계가 함께 머리를 맞대야 할 자원 문제가 여전히 남아 있습니다.
Hyper-concentration of the, whether it's critical minerals or you could add pharmaceuticals to that, concentrated in the hands of one country. And it leaves us dangerously dependent and cannot continue. And dangerously dependent because you can be cut off in a crisis, you can be cut off in a contingency in which they use it against you for leverage. So it's an all-hands-on-deck approach, and I would say almost anywhere you travel in the world, you will find, if you interact with our embassy, that critical minerals and critical mineral agreements and critical mineral cooperation has become central and core focus of our economic diplomacy around the world.
Wanted to just follow up on a little bit of a separate issue, but it's something that I know you think about. When you think about Haiti and all they've been through, what more can the administration do? What more can Congress do? What ways does the international community need to step up?
Well, on Haiti, we have this gang suppression force which replaced the MSS that was standing there. It'll come at a fraction of the cost to the U.S., about 100-something million versus 800 or 900 million, because other countries have stepped up and donated to it. The force is actually over-recruited. The number of commitments we have for the force is larger than the number of slots we needed available. And the core of it is this: these gangs won't just sit back. These groups won't just sit back and watch gangs operate. This international security force that will be there will be on the ground to take and hold territory from the gangs so that the government can gain in strength, hopefully be able to have an election, but also take back their economic vibrancy. This is an effort that was endorsed at the United Nations. It took a lot of work at the United Nations to get it approved, so that's what's opened the door for all these countries to join it. It's going to be a challenge. Haiti's a very big challenge, but this is the best plan we've had in a long time to address it. It has the support of the international community, not just rhetorical support, but monetary support and troop contributions and police contributions. And we hope it's successful.
특정 국가에 너무 의존하는 상황이 얼마나 위험한지에 대한 설명이 이어집니다. 대한민국과 일본, 유럽 같은 나라들도 함께 안고 있는 공급망의 약점이 구체적으로 나옵니다.
So it has to be successful because there is no plan B at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mang, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, this administration has claimed to prioritize curbing waste, fraud, and abuse. But in this department, you've overseen the destruction of over $8 million worth of birth control bought by U.S. taxpayers, even though many organizations have already offered to buy and to distribute them. These are the same birth control methods used by millions of women and girls here in the U.S. If distributed, they could have prevented an estimated 110,000 unsafe abortions and the death of over 700 moms. Your department is attacking them. Earlier this year, 66 of my colleagues and I sent you a letter in January asking about the status of these supplies, but we never got an answer. Secretary Rubio, what is the status of these birth control supplies?
We're operating under executive directive not to participate in these programs internationally. The United States is not going to fund this internationally. It's as simple as that. I mean, that's what's happening.
But these products already exist. How much have taxpayers spent to keep them in warehouses instead of distributing them?
Well, I don't know what it costs to store them in the warehouses per se. I think some of them, as you pointed out, have been disposed of. We're not going to use them. The government of the United States is not going to be involved in distributing contraceptive and all these other things around the world. And that's a directive we're operating under from the executive order, and that's not where we're going to prioritize our funding.
Okay, these supplies are not damaged, expired, or destroyed. Do you have any issues with them being distributed?
We're going to follow the directives that are in place. I have an issue in us being involved in that. That is not what foreign aid in the United States is supposed to be.
자원 문제뿐 아니라 IT처럼 치안이 무너진 곳을 어떻게 다시 세울 것인가에 대한 계획으로 이야기가 넘어갑니다. 국제사회가 어떤 방식으로 힘을 모으고 있는지 설명합니다.
Be paying for it. To be honest, it's not. Foreign aid of the United States should be to advance the national interest of our country, and that's what we're going to focus our resources on. And I know there'll be disagreement. People are, making noises in the background here, but here's the bottom line. Well, look, at the end of the day, that is the policy of this administration, and we're going to execute on that policy. Our foreign aid is going to be about advancing the national interest of the United States. And we don't view that this is in the national interest of the United States. We don't know what core national interest of the U.S. do these programs advance for us.
We're not just making noises. We're concerned about preventable deaths and life-saving measures for women, for girls, for
I understand, but this at an internet, again, the United States, there are a lot of worthy causes and worthy endeavors around the world. The United States government is not a charitable
But not women and
organization.
girls around the world.
No, of course, women and girls, and every one of our programs, every one of our programs that have to do with foreign aid, be it our work with the Global Fund, be it our work with PEPFAR, be it our work with these MOUs that we have in place on fund, every single one of these involves not, I would say in some cases, more women, girls, and children than they do adult males because of the nature of the aid that we're providing. But you're asking about a very specific type of aid.
If I could ask, in March, the New York Times reported that Ken Jackson, a senior State Department health official at the time, wrote a memo to OMB Director Vogt on these supplies, including the option to distribute them. To your knowledge, did Mr. Vogt receive this memo, and did he have anything to do with these decisions?
I don't remember that article that you're pointing to or the memo in specific that
Do
you're
you know
talking
if
about.
Mr. Vogt had anything to do with the decisions about
Well,
these
we always,
supplies?
as you guys know, the role that OMB plays, they issue directives on spending to the agencies. That's the role they've always played. That includes in the formulation of the budget we've presented to you. I can't speak specifically about whether he saw that memo or whether someone in his office addressed it.
So, I mean, Mr. Secretary, you were here in Congress before. You know that for over 6 decades, in a bipartisan way, the U.S. has supported these international family planning programs. They have saved the lives of tens of thousands of women and girls for pennies on the dollar. Last year, despite Congress directing funding for international family planning programs on a bipartisan basis, you told me, quote, "There is no plan to spend that money. We're not going to be in that business globally. We're not going to do it." Just earlier this year, Congress again funded these programs. I want to know, what is the plan, and under what authority are you refusing to spend taxpayer dollars directed by Congress?
Well, again, we're working through directives for this year. We'll be in consultation with your staffs about the ones that we're going to be pursuing, and we'll bring those available to you as we make them. But the policy that you reiterated that said last year is the one I've stated here again today pretty consistently. On the issue of directives that you just asked about, I know the appropriations bill from last year had a number of them, and we'll be working with your staff we haven't finalized yet which ones we have a problem with and which ones we don't, but we'll be doing that here very shortly.
여러분은 오늘 미국 국무장관이 말한 가장 좋은 사례라는 말에서 무엇이 느껴지시나요? 도움을 받던 나라에서 이제는 함께 공급망 위기를 해결해야 할 파트너가 된 모습. 오늘 영상을 보며 시청자 여러분들은 어떤 생각이 드셨나요? 오늘 영상은 여기까지입니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.